Hello, welcome to Normal Island. It's Monday, so obviously you're joined with me, Sarah. I am actually joined with a new guest. I'm really excited to have them. Hi, Elle, how are you today?
Sarah, I'm so good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. I'm really, really excited to have you. I hope your Monday's been going okay and it's been a solid start to the week.
Yeah, very busy. I've been doing a
Uh,
lot of organizing, a lot of streamlining.
yeah, yes. Elle is very, very busy, but has kindly given her time to be here today. So I'm super excited to have them. Amazing. So let's talk about what's coming on tonight's show. We've got right wing clown show. Zaya Yusuf returns to Reform Party after 2 days. Um, Least moral army. Israel kidnaps Greta Thunberg and Flotilla boat. Fascism in LA. Trump sends the National Guard to California. And no food for Tommy. Right wingers cry over Tommy Robinson pub debacle. As always, though, please remember to like the stream. And if you're not subscribed, then please hit that button. Help us reach our goal of 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm very optimistic. I say this every single time. You guys need to know my script by now. We'll be getting to your comments later on in the show. So please be busy in the chat. But on to our first story. Guess who's back? And no, it's not Eminem, it's Zai Yusuf. He is back just after 48 hours after dramatically quitting his own party. On Thursday, he resigned in a huff, even calling his own MP's burqa ban question dumb, only to announce by Saturday that his walkout was a mistake, born out of exhaustion and a torrent of online abuse. But here's what he said on X. Over the last 24 hours, I've received a huge number of lovely and heartfelt messages from people who've expressed their dismay at my resignation, urging me to reconsider. After 11 months of working as a volunteer to build a political party from scratch with barely a single day off, my tweet was a decision born of exhaustion. I only came into politics out of a sense of duty to serve the country I love, the country that's been so kind to my parents and provided me with immense opportunity, out of a sense of duty to do whatever I could do to reverse decades of decline and make this a country in which we could be excited for our children to grow up. I came into politics out of the belief that Nigel Farage was the man to deliver that. Having read the messages, I believe in these things more than ever. I know the mission is too important and I cannot let my people down, so I will be continuing my work for reform, my commitment redoubled. Reform has come a long way since I was appointed chairman and has moved from start-up to scale up. Given this and that we have one power, that we have one power at a local level, I'll focus on a new role. I'll be running the UK Doge team to fight for taxpayers, as well as working on party policy and representing it in the media. I'll continue to give all my time to the most important people, the most important project of my life, getting Reform government elected with Nigel as Prime Minister. I mean, from startup to scale up is a very bold claim from Zaya Yusuf. If he's so proud of the party's growth, why walk away at the first sign of internal dissent? Why abandon his post mid campaign when councils under reform's control need stability? There's zero evidence of a long term strategy, only a desperate PR reset. But it didn't stop Farage from rolling out the red carpet for Yusuf. He said, I'm delighted that Zai Yusuf will head up Reform UK's Doge department. He will also assist the party with policy, fundraising, and media appearances. Zai will continue to be an important part of the team. We are building to fight and win the next general election. So, after some rapid fire peace talks with Farage, Yusuf came back not only forgiven but seemingly promoted. Instead of staying gone, he's been handed a grab bag of new duties, from shaping policy to spearheading fundraising and acting as a media mouthpiece. In other words, if you resign from Farage's outfit, you might just re enter with a bit more power than before. Could this be political opportunism? Opponents across the political spectrum haven't stayed silent in the face of this. Labour Party chairwoman Ellie Reeves said, Reform's revolving door shows that the party is all about one person, Nigel Farage. Zai Yusuf's humiliating hokey cokey is laughable, but there's nothing funny about Farage's £80 billion in unfunded commitments. His reckless plan is Liz Truss's disastrous mini budget on steroids and would spark economic chaos that increases bills and mortgages. Working people simply can't afford the risk of economic chaos with Reform UK. I want to bring Elle in. There's a lot to unpack here that I haven't really delved into. But first, I want to get your reactions to this. What do you make of all of this?
I mean, it's just a copy of what we've seen in America, in my opinion. What we've seen with Elon Musk giving a huge amount of money to Donald Trump's campaign and expecting a huge amount of power in return. What Yusuf did was he donated 300,000 to the party and then had something come up at Prime Minister's questions that he wasn't expecting or didn't agree to, thought that that was wrong, that it should have been run by him first, because he'd thought that he'd bought himself the power to do that. And so had a strop, had a tantrum, and ran away. And Reform doesn't want to get rid of their biggest donor. They need that money. So to be able to I reckon that this isn't the only thing that he's come back with this new title. I reckon he's also come back with the power to have everything that's going to be raised at Prime Minister's questions by any of the MPs to be run by him first. This is a buying of power. Again, it's copy paste what we've seen in America. So we should be absolutely keeping an eye on this if we want to not just have the same thing happen here.
Agreed. I think it's slightly embarrassing as well, isn't it? Like, I mean, I was thinking, okay, yeah, he is the major donor. I don't think he actually, maybe I'm wrong with this, but I don't think he actually gets paid. He is just a major donor. I don't know. I don't really know what like the intricacies, the ins and outs of his role, but he seems to have been seemingly promoted amidst this whole like debacle. But I think beneath the absurd theatrics, I think lies a very, very serious question. Like, what does this spectacle offer working class people? Reform UK is that she soared in the polls, even overtaking Labour at one point by tapping into public anger and promising a huge shake-up. They've been leading in some of the by-elections too, but if they can't hold their own top team together and resort to meme-inspired efficiency schemes, i.e. Doge, instead of real policy, how seriously should we take them?
Incredibly seriously. I like, it's scary to say, but if we again, as I say, we saw a copy paste of this in America, and we didn't take Trump seriously in 2016. And we didn't take him seriously again in the most recent election because we thought, well, this is a win, obviously, for the Democrats. It was so clear she was more qualified. Again, copy paste from 2016 and the most recent election. We need to be taking this incredibly seriously. This clearly has worked over there. That does not mean that we're immune to it over here. We should be keeping an eye on this. We should be trying to fight back against this type of behavior within our politics. What we also know about Yusuf is his previous work seems to be inspiring his work within Reform. Apparently, the way that he treats the Reform people is very similar to how he would treat his interns at his bank before. This is, I don't think Reform particularly like Yusuf, like Reform MPs and Reform voters, but he is incredibly useful. The same way that a lot of people who supported Trump didn't like Musk, but he's incredibly useful. So we do need to be taking this seriously. This is incredibly dangerous for all of us.
I completely agree with you, and it does feel gimmicky. It does feel high drama. It does feel like a circus, but I do think that it's incredibly serious in nature, and it's actually quite frightening. I mean, it's frustrating to see like this revolving door of like, people coming in and out, and then deciding, well, actually, I want to be back, and then also all of a sudden they're being promoted. But I feel like they're very, very egotistical. Plenty of egos in the room, with ordinary folks like us just looking on, skeptical at the whole thing. I think right wing populists love to say that they're different from the establishment, but they're offering this tech bro fantasy and a chair who can't decide if he's coming or going. And I think I'll end it on this note, but I don't know if he's actually fighting for the people or if he's just fighting for the spotlight. But I guess we could say that about a lot of people in politics, couldn't we?
Absolutely. Like, just because it's a testosterone dick measuring contest doesn't mean that that hasn't been the fuel behind so many other atrocities. So we can't just go, oh, it's just the guys being dudes. No, this is the backbone of what has been the cause of most conflicts throughout history. We need to be keeping an eye on it.
Completely agree with you. And on that note, 'cause we've got a couple stories to get through. Let's get on to our next story. This has been all over the headlines. But Greta Thunberg is one of dozen activists aboard the. Let me start again. Greta Thunberg is one of dozen activists aboard the Madeleine, which set sail from Sicily last Sunday on a mission aiming to break Israel's sea blockade. The activists have said they plan to reach Gaza's territorial waters as early as Sunday to deliver humanitarian aid. But in a post on X, aka Twitter, I did see Curtis's comment, just need to put that out there. But in a post on X, Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, issued a clear and chilling order to Greta and the 11 others on the Madeleine, and he has said, I've instructed the IDF to act to prevent the Madeleine hate flotilla from reaching the shores of Gaza and to take whatever measures are necessary to that end. To the anti-Semitic Greta and her fellow Hamas propaganda spokespeople, I say clearly, you should turn back because you will not reach Gaza. Israel will act against any attempt to break the blockade or assist terrorist organizations at sea, in the air, and on land. Katz couching this as enforcing a security blockade aimed at stopping from entering Gaza, but shipping in rice, baby formula, medical supplies. That's humanitarian aid. Surely, with over 54,000 Palestinians killed and warnings of famine, this isn't border control, it's siege warfare disguised as safety, and frankly, it is illegal. Thunberg says she's there to break the blockade by non-violent means, and here's what she said.
In the event that there is some kind of interception, all of your lives are at risk. Why have you chosen to do this, you and the 11 others that have joined you?
I mean, we cannot just sit by and allow this to happen. We are watching, all of us on our phones are watching a genocide happening, following decades and decades of systematic oppression, ethnic cleansing, occupation, and we are just human beings very concerned about what's happening and do not accept what is going on. So therefore we have promised ourselves and we have promised the Palestinian people to do everything we can. And if this is something that we can do, for example, for me personally, if I, for example, have a platform or something, then I have to use that. In times of injustice, we all have a responsibility to do something, and we are trying to do that and step up when our governments are failing to step up, and on the contrary, are complicit and are supporting and enabling this genocide to go on.
I mean, surely what's unfolding is sea-bound symbolism with teeth. Katz's rhetoric, you will not reach Gaza, isn't just propaganda. It's legal and military threat backed by demonstrated capability. Israel is really going in on the volunteers, and the updates have been coming through very fast. They have been attacking the volunteers on board the ship. Let's have a look at this video.
Everyone, we are under attack. Please sound the alarm. They're throwing a lot of substances and objects on us.
I think what's even more insane is how LBC is reporting the story. Let's have a look at what they said. They state that Greta Thunberg's selfie yacht stunt brought to an end as boat is intercepted, and Israel forced those on board to watch harrowing video of October 7th attacks. Now, look at this. This is what the official Israel account tweeted. Good morning to all our followers. In case you missed it, the quote-unquote selfie yacht is safely making its way to the shores of Israel. The passengers are safe and were provided with sandwiches and water and expected to return to their home countries. A tiny amount of aid that wasn't consumed by the celebrities will be transferred to Gaza through real humanitarian channels. More than 1,200 aid trucks have entered Gaza from Israel within the past 2 weeks, and close to 11 million meals were transferred by the GHF directly to civilians in Gaza. There are ways to deliver aid to the Gaza Strip. They do not involve provocations and selfies. I'm quite literally at a loss for words when it comes to the story, but I really want to bring Elle in and get their reactions on it. For activists, I think across the world, us ourselves, it raises a very chilling question. In 2025, does non-violent protest still have the right to breathe on the high seas, or will the rules of geopolitical power drown it out?
The space that is left for peaceful protest is getting smaller and smaller every day. It's shrinking. With a few years ago, with the draconian protest laws that were brought in by the UK government, with the stuff that we're seeing in America right now, and the reaction that has obviously happened with the Flotilla, with their arrests, I'm becoming less and less trustworthy of peaceful protest ever being listened to. And I think it's a really stupid move, actually, from these governments. If you don't allow a space for peaceful protest, all you are making is a space for violent protest. That's all you are creating a space for. If you do not allow people to peacefully express their dismay, their distrust, their how they disagree with you, you are only forcing them to go down different routes, which are not peaceful. So as this shrinks and shrinks, I worry about how else we are going to move forward about Gaza, and ending the occupation and the siege and the genocide going on.
No, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean, I took a big breath in because I wanted to say you're absolutely right. Like, you are so right. But I guess what frightens me is that, what does it actually say about the current state of international law when humanitarian aid that literally is carrying baby formula and rice can be attacked and intercepted without any consequence? I mean, it's a frightening time to be living in. We've got people that literally like, hey, what's happening in Gaza is absolutely abhorrent, it's heinous, it's egregious, we can't just sit around and do nothing. Aid is literally has been blocked in terms of going into Gaza previously by Israel. So they've done this before. But is this not illegal to intercept a boat that's going into Gaza to deliver aid?
I mean, the legality of it is outside of my expertise, unfortunately. But whether it's legal or not doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is whether it's moral or not, whether this is ethical or not, and it's not. I think that the ICC will have some things to say about it. But unfortunately, I don't know the actual legal definition of if what Israel has done is legal or not. But it's certainly not moral, and it's certainly not ethical, and it's certainly not right.
Completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I know that there are people who've been criticizing Thunberg and the other activists and volunteers on the ship. I mean, I want to just preface, I am 100% backing the fact that they are doing what they are doing, that Greta and the other volunteers have selflessly put themselves out there to aid those in Gaza. But does Greta Thunberg's involvement help to democratize activism in any way, shape, or form? Or does it risk centralizing the narrative on one privileged Western activist rather than elevating Palestinian voices?
I would love to amplify Palestinian voices. What we have seen over the past 20 months is Palestinian voices be silenced over and over again and killed by bombs. And I don't want to speak for the Palestinians, but if it were me, I wouldn't care about the methodology of which you save my life or get people to stop killing me and my children. Like, whatever the methodology is at this point doesn't really matter to me. Now, as I said, I would love for Palestinian voices to be amplified. I would love, and I do want to say, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, this is not the only aid that is heading towards Gaza at the moment. There is another, which is a land convoy heading from Tunisia, which obviously doesn't have the protection of having a celebrity with it. We need your eyes on that convoy as well to make sure that they can make it safely, because there is not the protection that they have there. I am almost certain that the reason those activists weren't killed last night on that ship was because of their celebrity status. This convoy getting from Tunisia doesn't have that privilege, unfortunately. But as I said, like, this is, in my opinion, someone using their white privilege for good, in the best way they can, their celebrity status and their celebrity privilege for good. And again, at this point, anything to get some aid in, anything to get the bombs to stop.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I do. I'm completely backing this whole thing. I think that it's important to I think even in this you are amplifying Palestinian voices, because what we're seeing is that this sea. Oh, can everyone hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay, sorry, producer just talking to me saying that was a bit quieter. But I was just saying that like it's a sea-bound theatre of power, isn't it? Like you've got Katz's rhetoric on Twitter, literally saying you're not going to reach Gaza. Like that's a threat. And I think it's more than just public relations. It's a precedent for how far Israel might go to retain absolute control over Palestine, over Gaza. And I think the presence of those activists and those volunteers raises the stakes because the world is watching. I was literally tracking on the Telegram channels, because you can check on the Telegram channels what's going on, and they're releasing the videos and the updates as it's happening. And it's frightening because I know for a fact that those activists are scared. And then I couldn't help but think about those in Gaza and the fear that they are living within, not knowing whether aid is going to come in tomorrow, whether they're going to have shelter to sleep in, whether there will be something that's going to impede on their sense of agency, their sense of safety, their sense of peace. And I think if the boat is stopped, I think it becomes a pivotal moment in non-violent international activism, a test of whether symbolic aid can actually break real-world sieges, or whether military might still define the rules. And I'm worried that it's going to be the latter.
It's almost, I mean, at this point, in my opinion, it is the latter. And so we need to be becoming more experimental with our ways of helping. We need to be trying new things. The flotillas aren't new. I believe one went to Gaza in 2010, where people were killed by the IDF. I think 9 or 10 people were killed on that flotilla. One thing that does frustrate me about this is that we're not trying new things. I think we do need to be getting experimental, and get weird with how we're going to try and help people. Because if we keep trying to do the same thing over and over again and it's not working, try something else.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Absolutely. I'm very conscious of time. We've got 2 more stories to get through, but thank you, Elle. Your insight is so invaluable. It's part this part. If you're enjoying the show, then please like the stream, and if you're not a subscriber, then hit that button. I'm gonna get comfortable saying it. I will. Callum's laughing in the back because he knows I get awkward when I say it. But yeah, hit that button. Tell a friend of a friend of a friend. If you want to see us grow, then you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, and there is a link to our Patreon where you can support us monthly, or follow the other link to give us a one-time contribution. But I know that times are tough, so don't put yourself out. Alternatively, you can become a YouTube member for just 99p. We are facing a global oligarchy. I'm talking like Curtis, a global oligarchy, and now more than ever do we need radical independent media. So please help wherever you can. On to our next story though. So here we are, Trump back again. The man who once tear gas protesters for a photo op has now ordered 2,000 National Guard troops into Los Angeles to restore order and protect people from what he calls the radical left, after immigration raids sparked unrest. But why? Because Californians dared to protest ICE agents tearing 118 people from their communities. Let's have a look. America, sorry, let me start again. That's 118 out of an estimated 11 million undocumented people in the US. That is not law enforcement. This is political theatre as per usual. It's performative brutality to fire up the base, distract from failure, and punish dissent. And when California actually pushed back, I'm pretty sure there's been an update, and they've said that they want to press some legal things against the National Guard being there. But Trump responded like any strong man, with boots and guns. Since 2003, America has spent over $409 billion on immigration enforcement, yet we still have a broken system, still ripping families apart, still fueling chaos, and now we're sending soldiers to confront the outrage this system creates. Let's be frank here. This is not about law and order as much as Trump might try to convince you. This is about state power protecting itself, just like it did in 2020 when 17,000 National Guard troops were used to silence Black Lives Matter protests. Same playbook, different target. Immigrant communities dehumanized, protesters branded agitators. Meanwhile, Trump congratulates the Guard on a job well done. But who are they really protecting? Not families, not workers, not the people defending borders with bullets and ignoring the reasons people flee in the first place. There's another insane video I want to show you that came in not that long ago. Let's have a look.
Moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA. Whoa! You just shut the fuck up! You okay? I'm good.
That video really frightens me because how is it that a reporter's getting shot with a rubber bullet? And I'm pretty sure there was a British photographer, I don't know his name, someone can tell me in the chat, that also had been shot with a rubber bullet or shot with something, and now he's needing to have surgery. But please correct me if that is not the case. I know for a fact that it was a British photographer, but yeah, he was in lots of pain. Elle, let me get your take on this. Firstly, what are your thoughts on all of it?
Looking at the most recent headlines coming out, they're talking about California leaders suing Trump, and I'm sat with my head in my hands going, sue? You're going to sue him for sending in, like, why aren't we doing, I am very tired of bureaucracy. I find it incredibly draining and incredibly exhausting, particularly when we now have Trump calling these people insurrectionists, which is a very, that is a choice to use that word, to use the word insurrectionist for these people who are protesting. Of course, these people are protesting. You're doing something immoral. And I also wonder what Trump intends to happen after he's done all these deportations. It's not going to help their economy. It's not going to help their manufacturing. It's not going to help any of that. And I'm left with the answer that it's not to do with the economy. The cruelty is the point. This is about being the inhumanity of what they're doing. This is about making people scared. This is about making people fearful. There are two options that happen here. Either this continues and the American people rise up and fight against it and we end up with civil war, or they continue and they successfully crush and suppress the people and they stop fighting. And I am scared that it's going to end up with the latter, because it's easier for the majority of people. I'm just left always with the answer. The cruelty is the point. It's a feature, not a bug.
That's a really, really powerful line, actually. I completely agree with you. And you'd mentioned the whole bureaucracy of it all, and it's bureaucracy is being used as this cover for militarization and this route towards any like avoidance of accountability. But you also made a really great point about the fact that, because I'd watched Trump say this, he'd called them insurrectionists, and I couldn't help but feel the irony just like seeping off of this man, talking about arresting all of the people who were involved in these protests, but he was the same person that pardoned those in the January 6th, January 6th insurrection as well. So I was just like, how is this this man saying the things that he's saying and getting away with it? So how might something like this deepen the division between states like California? Because the Californian governor had literally said, listen, Trump said he's going to arrest me if I step in. Well, arrest me. I think his name's David. Is it David Menzer, the Californian governor?
I've not seen that headline.
Wait, say that again, Callum. Okay, I'll have to double check that. But yeah, how might this deepen the division? Gavin Newsom, yeah, he literally said, look, arrest me. Who the hell was David Menzer? I've got his name in my head. How might this deepen division between states like California, often resisting federal immigration crackdowns and a federal government leaning into authoritarian measures?
I mean, as I say, this goes one of two ways. This is either civil war at some point because people just can't take this anymore, or we are. I hope there's more grey areas than this. I hope there's more nuance than this. But this is what I'm being left with at the moment. Is this sort of crushing and suppressing, and this feeling of hopelessness that the people. Again, as I said, the cruelty is the point. So you want people to feel hopeless. You want them to feel like they can't do anything. So they stop fighting you. They stop fighting back. They stop trying to do the right thing. And I'm surprised. I hadn't seen that headline from about Newsom. The last I'd heard was like, "Stay calm. Don't give Trump what he wants." So I'll have to look into that. But maybe we see instead California aiming to leave the United States, but it's unlikely again. I just don't know where we go from here, apart from more extremes, which is, hopelessness or a civil war.
Yeah, super, super frightening times. I think America's in a really, really dire state at the moment, and this is incredibly scary. But I'll move on to our final story. Thank you, Al. On to our last story. This week's culture war circus rolled into a London steakhouse, and Tommy Robinson walked out hungry. Stephen Yaxley Lennon. Here's what happened. Yaxley Lennon, aka Robinson, a convicted fraudster, might I remind you, serial hate monger, and poster boy for Britain's far right, sat down to lunch at Hawksmoor in Mayfair. The starters came out, but before the steaks arrived, staff politely asked him to leave. Watch this moment when the manager tells Robinson's EDL linked pal.
What's that?
Your members of staff are uncomfortable, sir?
Yeah. Is it because of the colour of my skin?
No. We have a duty.
Is it because of the colour of my skin?
To our members of staff. We like to look after our people, as I'm sure you can understand. Our CEO, Will, said if you've got any questions about that, you're more than welcome to email him directly. His email address is there. Don't worry about this first round of drinks. It's on me, but I'm very sorry. I hope it's not inconvenient.
Hold on. Yeah, get another one. We've been kicked out of the steakhouse.
Have you seen that?
Have you seen that? We've just been kicked out of the steakhouse. We've sat here for a fucking hour. This is Liam Tuff's fucking fault. We've sat here with the celebrities. Fuck's sake. Fucking hell. They're uncomfortable serving us.
Oh, we kicked out the steakhouse, so celebrity. Like, shut up. Now, here's where it gets telling. Tommy's mate whips out his phone, demanded to know if this was about race, because that's the far right's favourite playbook, weaponised victimhood. The same man who built a career demonising Muslims, migrants, and marginalised people, crying discrimination the minute consequences arrive. Surely, just think about this. This isn't censorship, it's accountability. A private business decided that serving a man whose public record includes inciting hatred, harassing journalists whilst claiming to be a journalist, and targeting Muslims would violate the dignity and safety of their workers. And frankly, that is their right and their responsibility. When workers, ordinary people, say no, when a server says, I will not serve you, that's solidarity in action. That's the kind of community defence we need more of, because if we're building a world where hate is no longer profitable, it starts with making it unwelcome, even at the dinner table to the likes of Tommy Robinson. Elle, is this how we should meet the far right? Is this how we should meet the likes of Tommy Robinson, through community refusal, through not platforming?
So it's one of the ways, absolutely. Making sure that people don't have a place to spread that kind of ideology. There's that phrase I saw recently on TikTok, actually, which was like, you can't sell heroin at the farmer's market. You can't allow far-right ideology into the free marketplace of ideas, because it will... The free marketplace of ideas won't exist anymore if you allow that ideology in. What I will say in this as well is this can't be the only tactic, because shame doesn't change these people's minds. No one ever changed their mind because they were called an idiot or because they were called an asshole. What does motivate these people to change their minds? If they are arguing in good faith, that's a strong back up here, like I'm not telling people to waste their breath on people who aren't arguing in good faith, is a lot of these people's anger is valid. It's just directed in the wrong place. They have been told to be angry at immigrants. They have been told to be angry at trans people. They've been told to be angry at Ahmed next door, instead of the billionaire class, the elite ruling class that we have. So what I often find this has to be paired with, whilst not giving them a platform to spout these rhetorics, is also validating their anger and redirecting it, showing them that the reason that they are hurting, the reason that they are disempowered, disenfranchised, and don't have a voice is not because of immigrants or any other minority that they pick that day, but because of this billionaire ruling class.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on so many fronts. It is, and this is the thing. We need to realize who the enemy is. It is a billionaire ruling class, but it's people like Stephen Yaxley Lennon who will attempt to pivot that or shift that the lens away from the people we need to actually be interrogating. And it's interesting because I have plenty of conversations with people about Stephen Yaxley Lennon's his credibility, because believe it or not, people still think that he's a credible source for information given that he's such a great journalist. But I say that very, very lightly. I don't think he is a journalist at all whatsoever. I think he's just a prick. But he had this book that's $24.99 called Manifesto. And in the blurb, it said, and I've got it written here: for decades, the political class have openly planned to replace the indigenous people of Europe. And in Manifesto, we focus on how they are doing this in the UK. Does that not scream great replacement theory, like organizing principle of white supremacists, in that, white people are better, they're being replaced, and here's a book full of bigotry to prove that Muslims are coming over into this country to replace white people?
Yeah, from the co-founder of the EDL, am I supposed to be shocked and surprised? Like, sorry, this is, I can't, refuse to give that man a platform anymore. And I'm kind of even annoyed that we're talking about him right now, because it's just like, why are we giving him the airtime? Forget about him. He's forgettable. And instead get people on side, meet people where they are with a lot of these things. The reason that people listen to him is not because he's qualified or because he's particularly intelligent. It's because they feel an affinity to him and they feel a connection with him and they see themselves in him, right? So we need to be better on the left. This is a huge critique that I have of the left, of not being so lame and refusing to meet people where they are on their journey. We often expect people to go from step 1 to 100 overnight, and it doesn't work like that. We need to be using language they understand, which is why I'm fully in favor of redefining what patriotism is. Patriotism to me is nationalizing the railways and the waterways. So we need to be meeting people where they are with the language that they understand and validating their anger, but not in the way that Stephen Yaxley Lennon does.
Completely agree with you, and really well said. I absolutely agree with you. I'm conscious of time, but you have said so many valuable things. I'm so grateful for you. Let's bring our producer in, Callum.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Marvelous.
Can you hear Callum in the chat?
I'm sure they can. It says I'm on stage, so we'll find out. Right, let me have a look. We've had a lot of new viewers in tonight. Some very vocal ones as well. Some of them, some people are questioning the things they're saying. But listen, we're always great for new viewers, and any engagement as far as we're concerned is great, because it helps with the algorithm and helps get our content out there. So thank you for joining the conversation, for those of you that are newbies. Just a big shout out to Specs for gifting 5 Turn Left memberships. We've got quite a few there which have gone out to newbies too, which is always a wonderful thing, and we're really grateful for that. Thanks, Specs. Right, where do we start? There's quite a few. Let's start with Robinson and go backwards, shall we? Flow Snake. Is it 'cause we is white?
Well, that's literally what he was basically saying. Is it because of my race? Is it because of my race? Is it because of his race? And I was thinking, no, it's because Stephen Jackson is a fucking prick. Like, come on. Like, it's because he's actually a supremacist, a white supremacist who fuels off of bigotry and hatred. Make it make sense.
It's almost as if your actions have consequences.
Literally.
It's interesting how the same people who are well, there's two things actually. So the same people who are now running a cancel campaign of the business in question are also the same people that normally scream about cancel culture and how much they hate it. Yeah, they're running their own campaign of cancel culture. But the other thing that really gets me with this one is that these are the same people who thought it was hilarious when Jeremy Clarkson banned Keir Starmer from his farm, when that pub landlord in wherever it was kicked Starmer out of his pub during COVID. Remember, I will not have that man in my establishment. And they thought that was fantastic and that was brilliant. But now it's happened to someone that they support. They've got an issue with it. I don't know who needs to hear this, but it is perfectly legal and lawful in this country for any business to refuse service to anyone that they see fit. The only stipulations are that you can't refuse service to someone on the basis of a protected characteristic. And at this moment in time, political opinion and being a member of the far right is not a protected characteristic. If it ever becomes one, then we can have a conversation about whether or not he should be removed from a restaurant. I would love to know, some people have made this comparison online, I would love to know whether these people that are complaining about this would now say that those of us on the left were right when we said that bakery should have made that cake for the gay couple. If you remember that story.
I was literally going to make the same comparison. Yeah, this is, I'm sure so many of these people would have been, well, they didn't want to make it and they shouldn't have to. Okay, we shouldn't have to serve Stephen Yaxley Lennon then.
Yeah, fuck him.
Yeah.
I hate him. Can't stand
Beckett said he is a known violent criminal who's just been released from prison and has already breached his probation. I mean, I'm not sure if he has. I can't talk on him breaching his probation, but when with someone with a criminal record as long as his, who's just been released, I can understand why any manager of any establishment would be a bit, unsure about having him in the building.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to judge people based on criminal records, but on certain criminal records I do. I particularly, actually, it wouldn't even be for me anything to do with this criminal record. I understand the point that's being made, but it's absolutely more to do with just the stuff that he's done and said. Yeah. Like, I don't want you here. You're not the clientele I'm looking for. Please.
Becca's also said shouldn't have bought them drinks. I must say, I do think that the reason that they said, "Oh yeah, these drinks are on us," are because there would have been. I think they would have kicked up an even bigger fuss if the manager had turned around and said, "Yeah, we're not serving you. Oh, and by the way, here's a bill for what you've got so far." I think they just wanted them out in it with as little palaver as possible. So, yeah,
get them out as quickly as you can.
America. Keith, the ice raids were deliberately designed to be provocative. Trump has had the reaction that he wanted. Do we think that those protesters are just eating into Trump's hands?
No, I don't. Like, we need to realize why the protest is happening in the first place. Like, they are clamping down on. ICE are clamping down on people who are in the US, people who deserve to. I personally, hot take, I just don't think that people should be getting grabbed and taken and then shipped off to a country that they fled in the first place. It's lacking context, it's lacking empathy, it's lacking humanity, and then what's lacking all of those things and then some is putting the National Guard in place. But I do think the ICE raids are provocative in nature. I do think they are provocative. Yeah.
I think the reaction Trump would really want is for them to just roll over and take it, right? But People are reacting, and I understand that reaction, and I personally just don't think it's gone far enough. We need more direct action. We need to be actively going up against ICE. I understand the issues with that, but I don't think there's been any social change movement that's been successful that hasn't come with a little bit, with at least violence, or at least the threat of violence.
And I do think Trump loves optics as well. So maybe this whole National Guard theatrics, because it is political theatre in a lot of ways. I mean, people are getting harmed in the process, which is awful. But I feel I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but we all know that he loves cameras being out and about wherever he's at. And I think what he's trying to do is show that America's under siege. Like, look, yeah, the migrants are a threat. Look at what's happened as a result. We've had to put the National Guard out. That militarization, that strongman politics.
It's the threat of the migrants and the threat of the radical left, isn't it, that he wants to?
Yeah, like the woke agenda. Yeah. Like, I think he the more outrage he triggers, the more he proves to his base that the radical left are soft on law and order. And I think
heaven forbid. I was just going to say, heaven forbid people take to the streets to march against tyranny and fascist dictatorship, which is essentially what is happening in the States right now. To be disappearing people off the streets, in some instances simply for saying the wrong thing, wrong thing in inverted commas. It's the stuff of dictatorships. It's not something that we're supposed to see in a functioning democracy. To get the National Guard out against a group of protesters, who, my understanding is, were initially fairly peaceful, seems a little bit
of the first time, though. We've had back in the 70s with the protests against the Vietnam War. The National Guard killed 4 protesters at Kent State University in Ohio. Where's the NRA? The NRA, who is constantly going on about how we need our guns in order to protect ourselves in case we have a tyrannical government. There's a tyrannical government. They're here. Where are you? I will also say that I think it's an oxymoron. I think it's so funny that they like to label the left as softies, as liberal, bleeding heart liberals is the phrase, isn't it? But also we're somehow incredibly dangerous, and these riots are incredibly dangerous, and we should be scared of them. Which is it? Because it can't be both.
Yeah. We've got also on this. So H has made an interesting point. Journalists may be fair game now after Gaza, and I think there's a conversation that needs to be had here about the role of journalists just generally globally at the moment, bearing in mind that we're seeing an ongoing genocide happening in Gaza right now, and the world's press are banned from attending. They're not allowed in. The very few that are allowed in are only allowed in under very strict supervision from the IDF, where they are shown specifically what the IDF will want them to see. And when we see scenes like that video that we shared earlier of journalists, if you actually watch the video as well, and if you slow it down and rewatch it, the journalists that had the rubber bullet fired at them when covering the protests in the States, it was targeted. You can see the officer turning, pointing the gun in the direction of the press, and when the camera pans away, you can see there's quite a few members of the press in that area. So it wasn't, this whole thing that some people have already started to say about it as to, they were just mistaken for a protester or whatever. No, it was very obvious that they were press. It was very clear. I mean, we all know, we've all seen it, whether we've been there firsthand or whether we've witnessed it, either on the telly or in person at these events. It is obvious when somebody is stood with a flipping camera and a microphone and is delivering a piece to camera as a member of the press. It's not something that you can mistake for somebody else. And to deliberately point a weapon in the direction of the press and fire at them, it's an attack on freedom. It's an attack on democracy. It's an attack on the freedom of speech that America and Americans pride themselves on. What's that about?
Absolutely, I believe that journalists are going to be even more targeted than they already have been since the first Trump administration. We've seen this with them being banned, certain outlets being banned from the White House press room. Some of them being taken off the roster because they've been labelled fake news.
The AP were banned because they refused to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
And like they're a global organization, and it's normal for them not to change the name of things just because one country does. They usually, because they're reporting for a global audience, they go with what the majority of the world recognizes a body of water as. And it's ridiculous as well, even just saying it out loud. Trump banned the Associated Press from attending press briefings in the White House because they called a body of water something different to what he wanted it to be called.
Yeah.
It's childish. It's like primary school shit.
Yeah. We're dealing with a toddler who has tantrums and also has the nuclear codes.
It's like, Miss, they won't call my imaginary friend by their real name. That's literally what we're dealing with. Oh, it frustrates me. Sorry for the awful, silly voice there.
I loved it.
That's what we're dealing with, though. Right, I'm just aware of time. Joe the Knave has said, I don't think the Palestinians care about the, quote, narrative about Greta. They want the war and the starvation to stop. I think, Elle, you made a brilliant point in terms of, actually, again, not wanting to speak for the Palestinians, but people need to speak out and people need to take action. And if it was me, like you said, I wouldn't care where that was coming from. It's also interesting how an earlier aid vessel that went out that didn't have celebrities on it got attacked by the IDF. Like you say, there's more that are going to be going out, and the people that are going out on these ships are putting their lives at risk, and they are in real danger. The fact that Greta and the rest of the crew have been returned safely, so far so good anyway. Fingers crossed for a complete safe return, is only because of the coverage that came with having Greta Thunberg on that boat.
Agreed.
Her presence there, in my opinion, is the only thing that stopped the IDF from behaving more violently towards that vessel. And it's interesting, isn't it, how people take notice when a white privileged Westerner, puts themselves in danger, but when it's brown faces that are doing it, nobody seems to give a shit, and it makes me really, really angry.
I mean, but Elle said it well. She's using her white privilege to her advantage, and that's how it kind of should be used. And I think that's why I posited the question about the Western. That there is Western power, unfortunately, that persists. But I think this is being used in a way that is actually beneficial. So yeah, I don't think it would be great optics if something had happened to Thunberg.
No, we are, as I said, this is. I would love for this to have been led by a Palestinian. I would love for this to, but we are here.
Yeah.
We need to be trying anything and everything we can. As I said, please keep your eyes on the land convoy that is heading from Tunisia as well, because they do not have the privilege of having Greta Thunberg with them. This is, and also we need to be, as I say, trying new things. And instead of just one flotilla next time, why don't we try 20 at once? This is genuinely, can the IDF can stop 1, 2, 3 boats. Can they stop 20? Can they stop 30? Can they stop 50?
The brilliant thing about this, though, because many are pointing out that the amount of aid that they had on the vessel was minuscule in comparison to what's needed, and some skeptics argue that they knew they were never actually going to get there, and it was all just for show. I would agree in part. I would say they probably did know that they weren't going to get there, but what they have done is they have proved brilliantly that the only people that are stopping aid getting to people in Gaza is Israel and the IDF. Because it wasn't Hamas that intercepted and said, no, you can't bring this here. It wasn't Hamas that sent boats out that dropped I think as of so far still unknown chemicals on the ship before boarding and essentially kidnapping them. It wasn't Hamas that went into international waters where they have no jurisdiction whatsoever and forcibly removed people from the vessel. It was the IDF that did that. It was Israel that did that. And Israel argued, oh yeah, what we're sending, we've sent, what is it? They said 12,000 trucks of aid in the last week or so. Before they started stopping aid, there was 7,500 trucks going in on a weekly basis. That's now 1,200. So they can brag all they want about the number of trucks that they're sending in, but when they've been cut by 5,500, 6,000 deliberately, and then when they're intercepting vessels with civilians on board who are unarmed and also who are flying under a British flag. I mean, it was a British ship that they were using. It was a British boat. And our government has responsibility. And please, somebody tell me if there has been anything. I've seen a lot of MPs. It's the usual suspects: Zara Sultana, for example, Jeremy Corbyn, the Green Party as well, talking about this. I've not seen anything from David Lammy.
I haven't either. And actually, we had the news a couple of days ago that the conference that they were going to go to in New York with France to declare a Palestinian state, they've walked back on that now. Didn't last very long, did it? They've gone, oh, actually, no, we're just going to set up the steps to look towards agreeing to a Palestinian. This is what does Mossad have on you, dude? Like, this is and I also like to touch on the black market stuff, like the gangs that Israel complains. The reason the stuff that is not getting to the Palestinians is because of these black market gangs. How do you stop black market gangs? You flood the market. You don't do it by making less and less aid go in. You make it so easily accessible that black markets can't exist, because why would they? It's so easy to get food. You're absolutely right. This is a proof that the IDF is the only ones stopping aid getting into Gaza.
Jacqueline said, to all those who call Greta an attention seeker, well, there's no point in whispering behind a parapet when you're trying to call attention to a huge injustice. I think we can all probably agree with that. I just want to touch on Sean's comments. Thanks for commenting, Sean. We appreciate your engagement. Did the little doom goblin have her rainbow LGBTQ plus flag with her? Greta really is queen of the grift. We have had the climate grift, then the LGBTQ plus trans grift, and now it's the Gaza grift. Is it a grift, or is it just giving a shit about human rights? What do you two think?
Elle, go first. You go ahead.
Sorry, I had a big point on this. They're the same thing, my guy. All of these causes, if you don't think environmentalism is trying to stop the genocide in Gaza, they are the same thing. You should see the environmental footprint that the IDF is causing at the moment. This is making a huge impact on climate change. Not only that, though, the bigger point of this whole thing is all of these causes, whether that is the racial justice movement, whether that is the Palestinian justice movement, the indigenous justice movement, the disability justice movement, whether that's environmental justice movement, all of these things are the same cause. For example, environmentalism is racial justice because in America, did you know that the easiest way to tell where there's going to be a bunch of toxic waste sites is based on race? All of the toxic waste sites are in Black communities. Disabled people, disproportionately affected by climate change as well. These are all intertwined. If you aren't showing up for the environmental justice movement, and you are showing up for Gaza, you need to be doing both. If you're showing up for the environmentalism, but not Black Lives Matter, but not Palestinians, but not Indigenous people, you're not doing your environmentalism properly. Greta is being holistic in her approach. She recognizes that all of these things are the same. That's my piece.
I've been seeing this a lot though, calling them grifters. Like, are they grifters for risking their lives to deliver baby formula, rice, and medical supplies to a besieged population? Like, make it make sense. I think that's a level of cynicism that says more about the people calling these individuals grifters than it does about them. Like, it's actually frightening. There is literally no payday to being attacked by the IDF, by Israeli drones, or being intercepted by one of the world's most militarized navies these people are doing what international communities have failed to do, which is actually deliver aid to starving civilians. I'm not even going to try and like argue with that point.
Also, Greta's been doing this for time. Like, she's been doing this since she was a child. You can call a child a grifter?
Make it make sense. Oh God, I've been seeing that comment so much. Grifted.
Just to go to our final story, that's obviously Reform UK and the roller coaster of U-turns that we're seeing from the likes of Zia Youssef. Adam has said, Reform are face value politics, which is unfortunately the level that millions of voters engage in politics. It's not stupidity. These are intelligent voters with only a basic interest in politics. What are your thoughts on that?
I struggle to separate those two things. What we often see is, I think, and also things can be two things at once, right? A lot of voters for Reform, their material conditions haven't been met. That includes, annoyingly, education. For us, it's annoying for us because we then need to have the patience and the time and the energy to educate them properly on what they've been misled on. It means improving their material conditions before they get better. It's really annoying for us because we go, you don't deserve this. You're behaving badly. Why should we reward you for this? But unfortunately, in order for them to get better, to understand where they've gone wrong, to understand why they are angry at the wrong people, and to repair, they need to be educated first. There's also the other side of this. There's a lot of people, bankers, people who work in finance, who only have a basic interest in politics, who are voting Reform. They're less reachable, in my opinion. People who are apathetic, that is emotional anti-intellectualism, and I struggle with that.
Yeah.
There was some research published recently that showed, I can't remember the exact figures, but it showed that people that voted for Reform in the last elections were people who were more likely to only be educated up to GCSE level. And that isn't a dig, that isn't a brag or an attack on Reform voters and their level of education. It's just a statistic that I actually find quite sad, because there are a lot of people in this country who haven't been able to access higher levels of education. And like you say, Elle, we need to improve the access to that.
They've been
for
failed
everybody
over and over again. Failed.
Yeah.
Failed.
And it's understandable why people that have been failed by the system and people that have struggled, because if you're statistically, if you're educated to a lower level, your income often is can be lower than in other people with higher education levels, which then leads to higher likelihood of poverty, which leads to lack of decent material conditions, and obviously all these things together create people who understandably think the system doesn't work, understand the failings in the system, and creates people that want to vote for anyone that seems to be anti-establishment or standing up against the system and what the system stands for. Now, unfortunately, we know that Reform UK are absolutely the establishment. They're not offering anything any different. But for millions and millions of voters up and down the country right now, they appear on the surface to be the answer to everyone's problems, and I can understand why that's appealing to people, because they've not lived through a system that has helped them.
It's why we on the left, we need to get so much better at not being exclusionary, at this obsession we have with purity politics. We need to get less lame, as I said earlier. Stop being dorks. Be welcoming. Be a person that people want to be around. And get some social skills, please. I beg you.
There is definitely a preconception on the left, particularly online, of what do you mean you've not read Marx?
Oh my god.
we've said this. We've said like the left are so elitist in nature. We're so inaccessible sometimes. We're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
but the bureaucracy and rah, and this and techno feudalism, and we're like, okay, yeah, these things are like very simple concepts to us, but to people it's like very inaccessible. Which is why I'm like, I completely agree with you, Elle. To say like, yeah, because a lot of people do say, yeah, but they're thick and they're stupid. It's like, no, actually they're not. They're just angry. They're really, really angry. And I think on the left, you're absolutely right. It's not our job to sneer at them. It's our job to offer something better. Real answers, real hope, real power in the hands of working people. And we need to fucking sell that. We don't sell it enough, because if we don't, this Farage circus will keep filling that vacuum every
We
single
need
time.
to make the revolution irresistible.
Yeah.
It needs to be irresistible.
Acceptable. I agree with you.
And just finally from Keith, so Zia is going to be running Britain's Doge. So can we expect him and Farage having an explosive falling out there? Well, I think they had it. I think it was the same day that that Musk and Trump had their falling out when Zia Yusuf threw the towel in and gave up. I think those words will come back to haunt him, though. Saying that the fighting to get reform elected wasn't the best use of his time. I think. Yeah, I probably agree. I think there's probably a lot of better things he could be doing with his time. What I would like to know, without wanting to sound too conspiratorial, is what did Nigel Farage say to get him back?
Oh, as I said earlier, I think almost certainly sign off on every single thing that's going to be raised at PMQs. Because the whole reason this whole thing started, my mum made a joke about the hokey cokey comment you put a rich man in and you all freak out, and then Poachin chimes in and she calls the falling out. Poachin said this stuff about the burqa, something that Zaya didn't know was going to happen, and when he thought he'd bought that privilege, that right.
But he made a really good point, though. He made the point that he made on that was bang on. It is dumb to use his language to ask a question in Prime Minister's questions to the Prime Minister that your own party doesn't even have as policy. Like why put that to Keir Starmer when Reform themselves aren't even saying that that's what they would do?
But in going back to the party now, he's now said that he probably would be for banning the burqa.
Oh my god. I didn't know he said that.
Yeah, I'll find it.
That is embarrassing.
It's a real, again, these people care about power. This is
it proves it. They only care about power. How is it that, because I absolutely agreed with him when I was like, I hate the fact that he's had this onslaught of online abuse. I hate the fact that I love the fact that he's called the whole thing dumb about the burqa ban. Like, who cares? We've got bigger fish to fry, frankly. And now he's saying, oh, actually, I might reconsider. Oh, Zaya Yusuf, mate, you've made a meal of it.
The other thing to bear in mind, though, is that Rupert Lowe's still toying with this idea of starting up his own party in the next few months that might come.
Did you see what he responded to when Farage put the tweet out about Yusuf?
I've not seen that one. I don't think.
His response was like this one-liner, basically. Just
it's just insanity. But then the other thing to bear in mind is that Nigel Farage is still very much distancing himself, rightly so, from Tommy Robinson, and there is a lot of dissent from people that supports Tommy Robinson who feel like they want to support reform, but they can't get behind reform while Nigel Farage is in charge. And actually, they're all turning to UKIP again, which I think is quite interesting. It's slightly terrifying, but it's interesting to see how the reformer, they're not necessarily holding some of the voters that they think they would get. What concerns me, though, is that Labour are just doing so badly. I've said this a number of times, and I hope that I am wrong, but I honestly believe that Reform are going to win the next election, but on a lower percentage of the vote share than what Labour won last year. I think it'll be 25 to 30% of the vote. It'll be a loveless landslide, to coin a phrase, and it's going to be messy.
Just to give you that quote from Zaya about the ban. He said, if I was an MP, I would think about it very deeply. I think I probably would be in favour of banning face coverings in public writ large, not just the burqa. So I think this is actually for him more about protest laws. I think it's going to be about masking. because
it's about you know, biting his tongue to try and fit in, isn't it's like when you're in school and you're trying to make friends and you fall upon a friendship group that would normally otherwise bully you, and you make friends with them to stop them from bullying you. It feels a bit like that, you know. It's like if I'm in with them, they can't come after me, even though that they stand against a lot of the things that he stands for,
I never
particularly
thought that
from a
leopards
religious
would
point
eat
of view.
my face.
Say again, sorry.
I never thought that leopards would eat my face, says
Exactly.
a woman who voted for the Leopards Eating Faces party.
Exactly. But yeah, finally tonight, $4.99 super chat there from Graham. Thank you so much, Graham. Great host tonight, and big thank you to the mods. Thank you, and yes, big
Thank
shout
you,
out to all the
Graham.
mods for dealing with the trolls. Although we are, as always, grateful for the extra viewers. So come back and keep talking and keep driving traffic our way. We appreciate it. But yeah, I'll step down. But thank you both as well, and thanks for all your comments as usual. Catch you next time.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for the comment. And thank you, Elle. Honestly, you have been amazing. I want to have you back. I love sharing a space with you. I love getting your insight. You are incredible, genuinely, and just
Girls' night.
literally girls' night. I want maybe Monday should just be girls' day. That's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna put the proposition out there. Callum just said a minor honor. Sorry, Callum, forgot you were there. Right, no, thank you so much, Elle. I think that's all we have time for, to be honest. Thank you to our viewers, thank you to the mods, thank you to the people who you guys are just so supportive. I'm honestly so grateful to you. I see the regulars come in, and I think we've built such an incredible community, and I'm just very, very thankful that I get to share a space with all of you guys that come into the space. So yeah, I'm grateful. Remember to like the stream. If you're not a subscriber, then hit the button. If you want us to grow, then yeah, head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, and there is a link to our Patreon where you can support us monthly, or follow the link to give us a one-time contribution. Obviously, don't put yourself out as per usual. Alternatively, you can become a member on YouTube for just 99 pence. But thank you again. I'm Sarah, and I'll see you on Friday.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.